welcome everyone to Open Talk. Today we will open talk with the gentleman who help communities by going across country to educate many universities and corporates in Thailand about blockchain and fintech. He is a strong believer in blockchain technologies, the founder and group CEO at Bitkub Capital Group Holdings Company Limited, the company that holds the title as a startup with the largest seed investment in Thai history. He also serves as the director on the board of Thai FinTech Association. Please join us to welcome คุณท็อป Jirayut Srupsrisopa ค่ะ
เห็นไหมครับว่าโลกรอบตัวเราเนี่ยมันเปลี่ยนไปเร็วแค่ไหนคลื่นดิจิทัลเนี่ยจะเข้ามา disrupt ทุกอย่างขึ้นอยู่กับว่าเราเนี่ยจะจมไปกับคลื่นหรือจะเปลี่ยนเพื่อที่จะมุ่งหน้าไปพร้อมกับคลื่นลูกนี้และสกุลเงินดิจิทัลเนี่ยคือคำตอบ50 ปีที่ผ่านมาคนก็พูดแต่คำว่า innovation แต่ทำไม5 ปี 10 ปีที่ผ่านมาเนี่ยคนเลิกพูดคำว่า innovation แต่คนใช้คำว่า disruption มากขึ้น disruption เนี่ยมันคือการเปลี่ยนวิธีคิดเปลี่ยนวิธีทำและสร้างสิ่งใหม่ที่มันไม่เคยเกิดขึ้นมาบนโลกนี้มาก่อนแต่สิ่งใหม่เนี้ยมันมาแทนที่สิ่งเก่าได้เลย
สวัสดีค่ะคุณท็อป
สวัสดีครับคุณวลีพรครับ
Good morning คุณท็อป Welcome to OPEN-TEC community once again. How's your days คุณท็อป after Bitcoin broke the all-time high?
First of all, thank you for having me on your program ครับก็ it was beyond expectation. We have experienced an unprecedented growth, crazy rapid growth in the past month. But it was a good problem because we have added a lot of customers on Bitkub. So overall, it's a good experience for us, I think.
Okay. Kun Top, let's tell us about your background and please share to our audience how did blockchain and the book called Why Bitcoin Matters influence to your life?
Sure. So I was reading economics at school for my university career, and after graduation, I was like the traditional economic students. The traditional path was to work in either an investment banking firm or a consulting firm. So I decided to apply for an investment banking job in China because 8 years ago, in 2013, China was booming. In 2013, China has already opened up the country for almost maybe 20 years. So most of their companies are big enough to the point that they wanted to take the companies public. So I thought, it was a good opportunity to go to China and help do the cross-border M&A. So I started my first job as an investment banker in Shanghai, and that's when I discovered Bitcoin 8 years ago. When the Bitcoin price went from $11 to $1,150 in a very short period of time, 1,000% increase in its price. And that sparked my interest. I still remember talking to Darren, my colleague at the office, asking him if he has heard of Bitcoin before. Darren didn't bother, but for some reason I decided to do more research about Bitcoin, and I stumbled across an article called Why Bitcoin Matters, written by Mark Anderson. Back then I did not know who Mark Anderson was, but Mark Anderson is the person that sees new technologies at least 10 years, a decade before everyone else's does. He's the one who's pushing the world's technology frontier forward. He's the VC founder of Anderson Horowitz, the biggest VC funds in the world, invested in Skype, Facebook, Instagram, all of the world's changing companies. And for Mark, when he was a university student, he founded one of the very first browsers, Netscape, and he sold it to Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
He was already a billionaire during his university time. And after he founded Netscape, the next thing that he did, he did cloud computing. 10 years before Amazon did AWS, cloud computing. And in 2013, he wrote a blog called Why Bitcoin Matters. This is almost 10 years. And he invested a lot in Bitcoin in 2013. And he invested in Coinbase, companies that provide Bitcoin services. So I was fortunate. I was one of the very few, the minority people of the people that got to see the other dimension. I got to pick his brain, Mark Anderson's brain. I got to see the other perspective about Bitcoin, the other dimension about Bitcoin, of how this technology is going to change the world, how it is going to help the unbanked, how it is going to change the world of finance. So I was convinced after reading his article. Back then it was just a normal blog, but now it already became a New York Times article, a classic post, after 8 years. So, back then, if you talk about Bitcoin 8 years ago, you get two reactions. Either one, if you ask other people about Bitcoin, they would probably have never heard of it before. Or either they would say that this is a Ponzi scheme, do not go anywhere near it. Those were the two common reactions. But I was the minority that got to see the other dimension. I got to see what Mark Anderson thought about Bitcoin. And he's a visionary. He's a visionary. He can see new things at least a decade before everyone else does. So I was convinced that this technology is going to change the world. And that's why. And then I was just a recently graduated economics student, so I was trying to find out what I like, what I dislike about the working world. So after two and a half months, investment banking job didn't last very long for me. So I decided to fly back and start one of the very first Bitcoin company, Bitcoin startup in Thailand.
So I think this article influenced a lot to your life, nah? Then Kun Top, did you buy Bitcoin at all at that time?
Sure, of course. I mean, I'm one of the strongest believer in Bitcoin. If you have been following my story, I've been talking about Bitcoin blockchain in more than 1,000 stages in the last 8 years. I've been educating people about this technology everywhere, and founded 2 cryptocurrency companies in Thailand already.
Okay, then Kun Top, then as a startup, like Namdo-san in Startup Korean Dharma, we believe you also faced super challenges, right? How did you overcome it, and any difference between Korean versus Thai startup?
Sure. I think different startups faced different challenges. It depends on which industry you're in, different circumstances, environment that you're in. So I think it's not a one size fits all scenario here. With my own experience, my obstacles or challenges were more on regulations, because I've been doing this new thing for the last 8 years, where most people, or the majority of the people, disagree with this thing. And the reason is because most people did not understand what Bitcoin was. And as a human nature, we get scared. If you talk about new things, we were scared about automobiles when it first came out. People were saying that cars were slower than horses, broke down all the time, consume gasoline that was very hard to find, and it kills people, right? Cars ran over people. So there were regulations issues back then too. The UK government came out with a Red Flag Act law in 1896, forcing a, forcing, people to have at least 3 crew members to use a car. The driver is the first person. The engineers would sit together with the driver to supervise the engine. And then there's this guy with a red flag running in front of a car, 100 yards in front of a car, warning the pedestrian that the death machine is on its way. Do not go anywhere near it. So that was the completely nonsense regulation that came out in the UK in 1896 when the automobile first came out. We follows the same pattern, right? Most of the world's disruptive technology, people would be scared at first, and because they don't understand this new thing. If you talk about electricity, when it first came out, people say, let's use candles. It's much safer. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to burn your house down. Let's stick to the traditional method. If you talk about Bitcoin, most of the reactions I got in the last 8 years was, it's a Ponzi scheme, dark market, money laundering, toy money. Do not go anywhere near it. And my main obstacles or challenges of founding two leading cryptocurrency companies in the country is that we were the only spotlight for all the regulators to come in and work with us. So, I got called in by the anti-money laundering officers in my first startup. I got called in by the Bank of Thailand. They sent me a letter asking for a proper investigation. Even the revenue department came to our office and was with us for 3 months. Auditing all our books. Are we paying proper taxes? How do we pay taxes with this new thing? So I think my main challenges is different, are different for sure, compared to Nam Do-san's views. They were more on trying to find the product market fit, and trying to find startup funding, yes. Right? And but mine was on trying to explain to the society that how this new thing is going to change our lives for the better, and how we should fix the regulations to allow rooms for innovation. So it was a different set of challenges from my own experience.
Okay, so you have good opportunity to convince all the regulators, right? Anti-money laundering agency, also Bank of Thailand, Revenue Department.
Yeah, but it was very hard work. It took me years, and a lot of stages. I've been on like 1,000 stages at least. Been like giving speeches in at the Bank of Thailand, at the SEC, at almost every universities in Thailand, all the corporates, trying to give out as much information as I could, and let everyone's decide on what we should be moving forward with this new technology.
So it's good that right now more and more people understand about these things, right? And Khun Thap, as today, any business, either large or small or even startups, seem to have equal opportunity to use technology to jumpstart their business. How should business with the linear growth prepare for disruption, and how's the coming digital trend?
So right now, I would say we are living in the most exciting era. There are a lot of opportunities with the upcoming technologies. With the arrival of 5G, we will have a very low latency on the internet connection. It would unlock so many new capabilities, technology capabilities, like the the arrival of blockchain technology, the arrival of big data, IoT, AI, uh, VR, AR technology. So there'll be a bundle, there'll be a package of new technologies that would redefine the way businesses work. And those with an open mindset that are willing to learn, um, they can, you know, they can jumpstart by learning about these new technologies and how these new technologies can be deployed to to expedite the way or scale the way they service their customers. How these new technologies are going to redefine their business model, how they can become a user of technology to find new business models, right? Right now we're in a world where everything is on cloud. We can invest very little money to get the same access, to get the same technology as big companies. For example, right now we are using Microsoft Team for this interview, which is almost nothing in terms of cost. And this technology was very expensive if you were to talk about this 10 years ago, to have the same access as big corporations on these technology capabilities. Right now we have facial recognition software that we can pay for maybe $7 per month, and the quality would be the same as big corporations invested billions and billions of dollars on their own facial recognition platform. Right? So I think right now businesses needs to first look at the purpose of the company. What is their purpose of creating this company in the first place? What is the main problem that this company is trying to solve? And then working backwards on which technology they can bring in to solve the problem better. They need to focus on what they are really good at also. I think most companies now are panicking because the world is moving so fast, and they would be copying their competitors on almost everything, without realizing that what they stand for, without forgetting who they are. So it's important to focus. You cannot bring in all kinds of technology and expect to outperform, right? Most of the greatest visionary companies are not the pioneer of technologies, but they are the pioneer in the user of technology. They know which technology to bring in. They know what to focus on, and they know what their company stands for. And they bring only the right set of technologies to scale what they are good at, to scale the solutions that they are trying to solve for the society. Right now, with the COVID cases around the world, situations, most of the old economies are affected. If you notice, we're regional hotels, restaurants, bricks and mortar businesses are letting employees go, cutting expenses, marketing budgets, trying to survive. But if you look at the new world, new economy, like e-commerce, logistics, cryptocurrencies, they are also growing very fast. What I'm trying to say here is that money doesn't just disappear out of thin air, right? Money moves pockets. So it's very important to see this transformational shift. Entrepreneurs must see be able to predict the way, the direction that the world is moving towards. And we must do things in the same, direction as the way the world is transforming too. So with the new technologies coming in, with the COVID situations, money moves pockets. So it would, it either create threats for traditional economies, and at the same time, it would also create more opportunities for those that see the trend, create new opportunities for those that are able to spot this transformational shift. There'll be a lot of new things happening, new opportunities happening post-COVID. For example, there's this recent app called Clubhouse.
Yes.
It's a very fast-growing, popular app around the world right now. It is solving a very simple issue. That's I thought Facebook, Twitter, Instagram already got all the social media dimension. But this Clubhouse is able to think of something that is very social media like, but solving a very different solution, providing different services that Facebook could not think of. So it's important, I'm trying to say here is that it's important to not, believing that Bill Gates got all, stole all my opportunities already. I don't have anything else to do. That's a very wrong mindset. Otherwise, if Jack Ma were to think that way, then there will be no Alibaba or Jeff Bezos. There will be no Amazon, right? If they thought Bill Gates and Steve Jobs got all their opportunities, stole all their opportunities already, it's too late, right? If they thought of it that way, or if Mark Zuckerberg were to think the same, that Jack Ma and Jeff Bezos already stole his opportunity, he can't do anything else, then there will be no Facebook, there will be no Instagram. If Uber and Grab and Airbnb were to think the same, that Mark Zuckerberg, Microsoft, Google stole all their opportunities already, they can't do anything else, there'll be no Airbnb, there'll be no Grab, there'll be no Gojek, So the world is moving forward. There'll be new inventions coming out, replacing the old. The new are replacing the old. That's the way of life. That's the way the world works. So I'm very optimistic about the future. With the arrival of 5G technology, blockchain, AI, big data, VR, AR technology, they will come in and create new business models, redefine the old business models, and create more opportunities for everyone who has an open mindset and willing to unlearn the old things and relearn the new things.
Okay, so mindset is also very important. Khun Thap, before we move to the blockchain in financial world, would you please share why blockchain matters and how do you see blockchain adoption cases in other industries apart from finance?
Sure. So blockchain is one of the most disruptive technology of our era. If you talk about, the internet 20 years ago, what the internet did was that it allows us to exchange information in a decentralized manner without the need of intermediaries.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward, 20 years fast forward, we are able to exchange information in a frictionless manner. We can send text messages across the world. We can talk in the different places. We can get to see the other face, a person's face, without paying a single penny on this transaction. Instant, global, frictionless, manner that we can transact any kind of information. What blockchain does, how blockchain will transform the world is that it will do the same thing that the internet did, but for value, not for information. Right now, the way we exchange value is not very effective. We have to wait for days in order to send money across. Right? We have to, wait for and pay for ridiculous fees when we want to transfer one confidential information from one entity over to another, because they don't share information, they don't trust each other. So there are a few use cases that we can apply blockchain to redefine how everything works, right? In a much better way. For example, today hospitals, they have a lot of clients' data. Right? We have our own data with the hospital that we've been visiting since we were a child, we were young. We have our own favorite doctors who know all our medical history. And what happened when we were to change hospital? Right now, we have to pretty much redo everything. Right? We have to open up a new account at a new hospital. We need to fill in everything again. We have to do the blood tests, and these are very time consuming and inefficient way of doing things. And the reason is because hospitals do not trust other hospitals, right? They don't trust each other. How do we find a way that hospitals can continue to not trust each other, but they can now work together to share information in a trustless manner? There enter blockchain. With the blockchain technology, we can now share this value across. Confidential information is valuable, right? So we can share this, send this value across in a frictionless, instant manner, and a global, instant, frictionless manner. It's like the same way that we send emails now, without the need of intermediaries. So they can work together in harmony, but still without trusting each other, and nobody can cheat the system. So that's one use case of the blockchain technology. Another use case of a blockchain technology is the traceability solution. For example, there's this company called Everledger. Everledger is trying to solve the fake diamond issues in the world. There are a lot of fake diamonds, and the only way you can see the diamond is in the lab. Every diamond has their own fingerprint, but you must be able to, you could only see it in a lab. And once the lab verifies that this diamond is real, you can keep the fingerprint, the DNA of the fingerprint, or the series of this fingerprint on the blockchain. And blockchain is an immutable ledger, immutable, incorruptible ledger. And once this diamond hits the market, the retail market, the retail customers can verify the authenticity of the diamond on the blockchain to verify if this is a fake diamond or a blood diamond or the actual diamond, without the need to trust any intermediaries or paper created from a company, which is an intermediary, right? So Everledger is able to solve this fake diamond issues. It's a blockchain startup. Or we can use blockchain to trace wine, for example. Say if you're about to open this very expensive bottle of wine created in 1945, Second World War. How are you sure that this wine bottle is actually from the Second World War? It's already older than you are, right? So how are you gonna authenticate the truth? Are you gonna trust the verbal history? Right? We cannot clearly trust the verbal history, so we need to, keep record of this wine onto the blockchain, and the retail customers can authenticate on the blockchain if they can see the transaction, all the transaction of this wine bottle in a transparent manner on the blockchain. So we can use this blockchain to trace for valuable items as well. For example, in India, employees of a factory that produce medical pills, they secretly sold medical pills in a dark market, and they put in the fake ones on the at the start of the supply chain. So it's a very lethal risk for the consumers to consume fake pills, right? And what the Indian factories does is that they employ two new technologies. The first one is the smart packaging. That now we can have this NFC chip on our phone. We can put the phone on top of the package and able to verify the timestamp. And they can keep record of transaction onto the blockchain of all the different transportation points since the start of the supply chain to the end market consumer. The consumer can trace the transaction of this medical pills bottle back to the start of the supply chain of all the different transportation points. So that's another use case of blockchain to verify the authenticity of valuable items or sensitive items like medical records or medical pills. Even Thai banks are using the blockchain for the eKYC collaborations. Right, we have a lot of banks here in our country, and if you were to look back like 5 years, 10 years ago, it's a very painful process to open a bank account. It would take us at least a few hours to open a bank account at one bank, right? And if we were to walk across to another bank, then we would need to spend an additional hour or two refilling the same information, because banks do not share these informations. They don't trust each other, just like hospitals. And with the use of the blockchain and with the upcoming eKYC solutions, right now we can be at home in our sofa. We can bring our phone with and we can take a selfie doing quick facial recognition, biometric data software, and we can verify if we want to share our own data across different banks. So we only need to do the process once, but we can get all the bank accounts in Thailand at once. So we can save a lot of time and the same redundant process that we can remove from the system. It would save a lot of people's time collectively per year, right? These are the deadweight loss in our ecosystem that the blockchain can save. Even passport, we are still using paper for passport, and it would take a day to get a visa somewhere. Why don't we keep visitors record on the blockchain, or all the airports around the world would be sharing these information. It would speed up the migration time much faster instead of keeping everything on paper. So that's another use case of blockchain technology as well. Yes, so these are a few use cases.
Okay, so you talk about apply blockchain for the hospital and also for the traceability of the valuable items, and also for the eKYC collaboration among the banks. And also you also recommend for the passport. In the future, we may have the passport apply the blockchain technology, right? To make it easier for us when we travel. Okay, Kun Top, now let's deep dive into the story of blockchain in financial world. Many people talk about banks to be gone. What's your opinion in terms of when and the customer readiness?
So Bill Gates has been saying this for a long time, and I would like to share his quote here. He said, "Banking is necessary, but banks are not." What does that mean? It means that we will continue to need to use the different financial transactions. There is a demand to borrow money, there's a demand to lend money, there's a demand to transfer money and to receive money.
Mm-hmm.
These things never change. But what is changing is the way we get access to these things, the way the way we are supplied with financial services. So with the arrival of cryptocurrency, with the arrival of social banking, with the arrival of big data, with the arrival of AI, these technologies combined can redefine banking. It will redefine the way financial institutions work. It will reduce time. We will get access to a much faster transaction. It will reduce the deadweight loss. You'll get access to a much cheaper fee on every type of transaction. It will reduce intermediaries. We will transact without the need of intermediaries or inefficient intermediaries on some transactions. So, what is certain is that the world is moving forward every day that we get up, right? The world never stop moving. So there'll be new applications, new services that are replacing the old. That's the way of life. The way we progress forward. My prediction would be that within the next 10 years, banking would be very different. The arrival of 5G, low latency internet, Starlink's internet from the sky, mobile phone penetrations, there'll be no branches left, because banks are like the bricks and mortar businesses, the supply chain business. They rely on really heavy infrastructure, very high capex and opex, high operation cost, high sunk cost, where we are in an era that's these internet from the sky, mobile phone penetrations are already the existing infrastructure, the new existing infrastructure that people can use them. We can free ride on these infrastructure to get access to a much better financial services. With the arrival of cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, social banking, everyone has a social media account, and even Facebook is coming into banking. Twitter, PayPal, Tesla, Apple, they're all coming into Google, right? All these big tech firms are coming into banking, and they're trying to redefine the way financial transaction works. So I think it's one of the most exciting era. And in terms of the retail customers, we would get a much better services. With competition, it would lower the price, it would speed up things, it would reduce the inefficiency. So we always ended up with a much better product or services for the retail customers. In terms of the incumbents, they need to adapt. It's a way of life. we always constantly need to improve and leverage on the newest technology to deliver a better service for our customers. So we're in, I think in the next 10 years, this will be the most exciting era in the financial sector.
Okay, so you expect more and more banking business in the future in different format. The bank will be different, right? Okay, how's the development of digital baht as compared to digital yuan and dollar? And what's the key drivers for digital baht to be successful?
First of all, I would like to acknowledge the Bank of Thailand that they've been moving very fast on this front. I would say we're in the top 10 around the world of being the most innovative central banks.
Mhm.
The Bank of Thailand started to research on cryptocurrency in the year 2017. They founded a separate digital currency team to work on the project, the internal project.
Mhm.
And they have already finished the first 3 phases. Right? It's the interbank transaction to replace the botnet system,
Mhm.
the bond market, and the international remittance between Thailand and Hong Kong using Corda, right, private blockchain. There are the three wholesale banking applications, blockchain applications already, and now they're moving to the 4th phase, the retail application uh, of the blockchain. At the end of last year, they put together a team to push forward the digital baht project. And what I've been informed is that they have decided on which blockchain to use, but they haven't fully designed the whole system yet. So I would say we are a bit behind China with the digital yuan project. They are also one of the fastest moving central bank around the world, right? If you
Yes.
compare
Yes.
China, they have a separate building, not just a team, the whole building, called the Digital Currency Research Center in China, and they've been quietly researching and testing, digital yuan projects for 4 years now, 5 years. And last year, they announced that at the end of last year, China announced that digital yuan has been used by over 2 million people already as a prototype, a quick prototype, a quick sandbox. They haven't deployed this digital yuan for the whole countrywide yet. They only deployed in 4 cities, 4 provinces. And they invited 17 leading companies to join the association. They invited WeChat, Alipay, Starbucks, McDonald's, JD.com, all of these leading companies to join forces and try out the digital yuan project. So, China is pushing their central bank digital currency to the point that it is beyond the research work. They are already deploying digital yuan in a closed loop, I would say in a sandbox environment. So if we were to compare Thailand to China, we are a bit behind. But if you were to compare Thailand to the rest of the world, I would say we're still in the top 10 most innovative central banks around the world. So I could not say with 100% certainty what digital baht would look like because it's still a work in progress. But in the future, I can confirm that we won't be using paper money going forward. It's a less efficient way to transact. Right? And we don't need to touch money. It's not in the definition of money, right? We need to, anything that can be classified as money must satisfy three or four or five conditions. The first one is the divisibility property. The second one is the fungibility property. None of these conditions say that money must be physical. So, going forward, I don't think we will use paper money. Or if you look at China, for example, WeChat and WeChat and Alipay has been around since 2014, right? So 7 years ago, and within 7 years, they are able to turn the whole country cashless. 1.4 billion people are not using cash. If you go to China, Shanghai, Beijing right now, none are using cash. They're using WeChat and they are using these social banking apps to transact. They were able to transform the whole of China within 7 years, 1.4 billion people. So I think for Thailand, we are a very small country, a country of about 69 million people. I think it would take us less than 10 years for everyone to go cashless. If it took China 7 years for to turn 1.4 billion people cashless, we are very small, really small compared to China. It would take us less than a decade to change the way people think about money.
Okay. Do you have any comment regarding the digital dollar?
Last year, at the end of last year, there was a quick announcement from a private group of companies, not from the Federal Reserve. Private group of companies. There's a quick initiative saying that the U.S. government should create this digital dollar before it's too late. But the initiative came from a group of private companies. I don't know if they invited Deloitte, one of the top 4 firms, to join their association. But they've been quite quiet since. So personally, I don't know much about their progress. So I can't say much here. But I'm sure all the central banks around the world are watching this digital currency closely. Even the head of the IMF or the head of the World Bank came out and said, if any of the central banks are not looking at, moving things digital, create digital currency for their own, it's already too late. That's the statement from the head of IMF and the World Bank. So I'm sure most of the central banks around the world are looking into this. They have a separate team, research team, looking into this, and we'll probably hear more progress in the next few years going forward.
Okay, and it's good to hear that Bank of Thailand have lots of initiative on this area, and we are among the top 10, right, in the world for the most innovative central bank. Okay, could talk regarding the privacy and transparency concerns over central bank digital currency. How should regulators do to overcome?
I think this is the most common misconception for the public about Bitcoin or other digital currencies. Most people thought that Bitcoin is anonymous, completely anonymous, but in reality, it's not. All the transactions are visible on the blockchain. And everyone has full transparency on those transactions. So all the Bitcoin transactions are not anonymous, but pseudonymous. We are able to trace from one point to another on the blockchain. We can see the flow, the destination of every transaction. All the transactions are visible on the blockchain. What is completely anonymous is cash. Paper money is completely anonymous. Right? So if we were to meet in a random street somewhere, and if we were to exchange 1,000 baht notes over, that transaction won't be recorded anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely anonymous, and the government cannot trace the privacy or the anonymity of that transaction. And the way the government and what the government has been doing in the past, they could not, keep an eye on every single transactions on the street.
Mm-hmm.
They've been working closely with an upper layer. We call it financial institutions.
Mm-hmm.
Although all of the transaction that pass through banks must be reported to the AMLO office, Bank of Thailand. So they are able to regulate on the data point of the country. We call it the traditional financial intermediaries like banks and stock exchange of Thailand and
Mm-hmm.
money exchanger, right, as a central data point collection of the country. But for every single individual transaction on the street, the government could not trace any of them because cash is completely anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
With the blockchain, it's actually a better solution because all the blockchain transactions are visible, fully transparent, and not anonymous. They are pseudonymous, meaning that you can trace different transactions on the blockchain and arrive at a destination point somewhere, right? And what the government could do is that they could work with the new tradition, the new intermediaries in the space, say Bitkub. Bitkub is becoming a data point, data collection point for the country, just like banks in the past, right? We are able to compile all the transaction for the, and work closely with the government to monitor, to prevent bad actors. But down to the individual transaction, at least if we were to compare crypto transaction and blockchain and cash transaction, at least all these crypto transactions are visible on the blockchain and not completely anonymous like cash. So I think it is an upgrade for sure in terms of transparency and removing bad actors from the space.
So you feel that for the central bank digital currency, it will be more transparency
Yes.
when we apply that?
Yeah. So with the digital currency, especially the digital baht, there will be no hiding of taxes, underpaying taxes, dark market activities. Everything would be transparent online. I think the thesis would be the other way around. I think traditional normal people would be using digital currency, but all the thieves and bad actors will be back to using cash because they are completely anonymous.
Kunap, how do you see the global cryptocurrency trend? Any shift in the type of investors and what's the crypto market size as compared to the stock market in Thailand?
Right now we're in an exciting year. We're at the at a 1.5 trillion dollar market size now. Compared to last year, we were only at a $500 billion market size. So the whole industry has grown by 3 times in less than a year. In about say 8 months, 7 months. And there's a shift now in the flow of money. We see companies like Tesla. You see companies like MicroStrategy and Grayscale coming into the space, buying up a lot of Bitcoin as their company's reserve. We're in a period that all the institutional money are coming into the space instead of just retail money, just like the last 8 years. I've been in this industry, for the last 8 years, and the whole of the industry was driven by retail money until recently, in the recent years, in 2020 onwards, we started to see different types of money entering this space, the institutional money type. And the reason why institutional money can come in is because we were able to solve the regulation or the definition of Bitcoin, that it is now something legal, a legal tender. Otherwise, institutional money cannot enter the space if it is still in a gray area, right? Because institutions are looking after someone else's money. They need to make sure that they invest in something legitimate. And in the last 8 years, there were regulations coming out, licenses. For example, Bitkub has got a license from the Ministry of Finance, regulated by the SEC. So we were able to solve the first condition. And the second condition is that the infrastructure for keeping crypto assets must be safe enough for institutions to sleep well at night. Recently, there are developments like Sapo institutional vaults. The infrastructure is much more ready. So corporations are able to enter the space and are able to store their cryptocurrency in a much safer manner. That's why we see trends of institutional money coming into the space. Plus we're living in an era where the US government is printing unlimited money right now. Unlimited QE. New money is, they are entering the space at a much faster rate, in trillions of dollars, in trillions and trillions of dollars to bail out COVID situations, the COVID situation. And if you look at companies like Apple, they have like 191 billion dollars in cash, lying around. Don't know what to do with them. Microsoft has another 137 billion dollars. Don't know what to do with them. Or even Tesla has about 19 billion dollars. So Tesla is a first mover in the space, because they see this 19 billion dollars are inflating away by the US government. They turn 8% of their cash, $1.5 billion, into Bitcoin to preserve their own wealth, to protect their purchasing power for future transactions. And Tesla is the first mover because mostly we see tech companies, understanding new technology first, being the first mover in any space. Then there's this point where it hits the inflection point, where we will enter the mass adoption phase, where traditional businesses would be coming and doing the same thing as Tesla too. So I would say we're in one of the most exciting era. Institutional play, institutional money is a new level compared to the retail money. The industry can grow at least, then the whole industry can grow at least an order of magnitude bigger than the current market size. This is what I personally believe.
Good top end. So you right now lots of more and more institute that get into the market, right? And this is to protect their purchasing power, right? So you expect more and more traditional companies to follow in the future, right? And if we compare the size of the market of cryptocurrency and the stock market, how is it?
Sure. So the global financial assets around the world combined is worth around $500 trillion combined. And within those $500 trillion, 70 trillions are going towards global stocks. Out of 500 trillion, 100 trillion, $102 trillion go towards global bonds market.
Mm-hmm.
Out of $500 trillion, about 1.5 trillion came to cryptocurrency industry.
Okay.
So if you were to compare the cryptocurrency market to the global stocks,
Mm-hmm.
it is a 70-to-1 ratio. Global stock is at least 70 times, not 70%, 70 times larger, bigger than the current cryptocurrency market.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the market is still very small as compared to the stock market, but it is growing a lot, right?
Sure. Say if we were to assume 1% of
Mm-hmm.
the diversification from all the investors around the world. 1% of 500 trillion is already $5 trillion, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the cryptocurrency market combined is it's not even $5 trillion. It's $1.5 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
So it's less than 1%. It's 0.25% maybe of all the world's financial assets combined.
Okay. Okay, I see. And Kun Top, would you please give us the sample of corporates that, I think you already mentioned in the previously that some sample of the corporates that use crypto, right? So could you please tell us more about the key learnings when the corporate use and adapt? Do they have to adapt the process when applying crypto in their business?
There'll be a thing called humanization. Big corporations and retail customers would be using cryptocurrency without knowing that they're using cryptocurrency.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be companies like Bitkub, PayPal, humanizing the technology for the people to use without knowing that they're using the technology. So, for example, right now we're using Microsoft Teams and Zoom and Skype to talk across the world without knowing that the underlying technology is what we call the TCP/IP protocol, right? Zoom, Skype, Microsoft Teams, they are humanizing TCP/IP technology. For the retail customers, we're using it without knowing that we're using TCP/IP to get information across in a cheaply, global, frictionless manner.
Mm-hmm.
In the future, PayPal is already embracing cryptocurrency. MasterCard, Visa are embracing cryptocurrencies. PayPal is allowing 26 million merchants that are already on PayPal network to accept cryptocurrency this year. They would be accepting cryptocurrencies without knowing that they're accepting cryptocurrencies, because on the user's end, they'll be paying in crypto, but on the receiver end, they would be receiving in fiat currency. PayPal would be acting as a gateway, as a payment gateway or intermediaries to automatically convert crypto at a market price, at a market rate from the sender to the receiver. They are the translator of the crypto world into a fiat currency world. They're humanizing the process. Or for example, there's this one bank in Thailand, a purple bank. They're using one blockchain to send money across from Thailand to the UK within 30 seconds, and the cost is down to 0.05% fee. So, and an order of magnitude cheaper than what we are currently paying. We're paying at around 5% to get money across from Thailand to the UK right now, and it would take us 2 days to get money across. With the arrival of RippleNet blockchain, the bank can get money across within 30 seconds, and the fees is down to 0.05%, an order of magnitude cheaper, 1,000% cheaper. So if you were to ask customers, they would have no clue what the bank's technology are, right? They just thought of this bank as a cheaper way to get money across, a much faster way to get money across without losing money, without losing a lot of money on the way. So the bank is humanizing RippleNet blockchain without telling the retail customers.
Okay, so we use it without knowing that underlying technology will be the blockchain technology, right? And could talk in another case like Elon Musk, right? And the Tesla that they use, they invest in Bitcoin and use it as a reserve, right? In that case, do they have to, like, if in the future, if the company, like the traditional company in Thailand, they would like to put the Bitcoin as a reserve, and do they have to adapt any process or anything?
I think the hardest part is the regulation and all the accounting side.
Yeah.
We need to find a way to book Bitcoin transaction on our accounting book. Even the accounting standard must be revised and improved going forward. With the existing regulations, companies in the stock exchange, they need to file this filing to the SEC to inform them that they'll change part of their profit into Bitcoin as a reserve. The infrastructure is ready. The company, Bitkub, the marketplace, everything is ready. But I think the hardest part is the regulation. It may be easier for private companies to start first because they are private, not a publicly listed. They have very limited exposure and very limited stakeholders. They just need to figure out a way to keep their accounting to align with the accounting standard. Maybe harder for the publicly listed companies. They need to file they need to file the interest with the SEC, and they need to work things out on the accounting side with the top 4 firms, accounting firms. But to be honest, if Tesla can do this, other companies would follow. Right? Tesla is already a publicly listed company. Same with MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy is also in the public market. If they're the first mover, then I'm sure the private companies and other, companies in the developing world, we are moving in the same direction in the future.
Okay, could talk what's the potential and risk of investment in cryptocurrency?
Yeah. So for any types of investment, there's a risk associated, right? It's not a risk-free asset. So the crypto assets are highly volatile. If you were to compare to traditional stocks or treasury bonds, right? They're much safer in terms of volatility. So, and also there's a risk of not keeping your private key correctly to how to store them in a safely manner. There's a third-party risk, custodian risk. There's a risk of price fluctuations. These are all the risks of cryptocurrencies. But if companies know how to use or work with a third-party custodian, a proper third-party license, third-party custodian solutions, then they are able to mitigate the risk of storing them in a safely manner. But there's still a risk of price fluctuation because the market size is really small, $1.5 trillion compared to the global stocks. For any market size that is small, the volatility is high. That's the basic finance because the user base is smaller. But once the user base gets bigger and bigger, the volatility drops in the future. It's predictable. So I think it's still much riskier for early adopters. But for anything in the world, when there's a high risk, there'll be a high return. Tech companies are the first to venture out into this world. once we reach mass adoption, the volatility would drop. And crypto would be classified as another asset class.
Could would you please recommend who should or should not buy crypto and how to start and keep it secure?
Those that should not buy cryptocurrencies are those without the stomach for volatility. If you cannot sleep well at night, knowing that your unrealized wealth has gone down by 20%, then you should not get into crypto because it's highly volatile. One day your crypto, unrealized gain or loss could go up by 20% or go down by 20% or more. That's a normal day in cryptocurrency. So if you don't have the stomach for volatility, then you're not the right type. You should stick to traditional stocks and bonds. They maybe move 5% maximum per day. Right. That's already a lot in stocks. Second of all, those who should not get into crypto are those without the right education. We must learn how to store cryptocurrency correctly. We must learn how to buy cryptocurrency correctly. We must know how to sell, how to open accounts, how to send, how to receive correctly first before we jumpstart on investments. Those that should invest in cryptocurrencies are those with wealth, with a lot of money in the portfolio, and may want to diversify some of their portfolio into the new asset class, because the US government is printing out crazy unlimited amount of money every day as we speak. All the money in the bank are inflating away with this type of money coming in, this new flow of money coming in. So those that can afford to risk should maybe diversify, just like Tesla, part of their portfolio on the new asset class, to protect the purchasing power of their own portfolio. So those that could afford to risk should enter the space. Those that cannot afford to risk, what I mean by cannot afford to risk can be classified as many factors, right? First is the stomach for volatility. Second is, do you have cold money or hot money? Do you need to have urgent? Do not put essential money into this. Put money that you can afford to lose. If you don't have this type of money, then it's not a right place for you to invest or speculate. And also the third condition, do you have the right kind of education? How have you already mastered how to buy, how to sell, how to open accounts, and to send and receive cryptocurrency correctly? So we must know ourselves first if we are fully ready on these 3-4 conditions.
Okay, Kun Top, lastly, would you like to leave the key takeaway for our OPEN-TEC audience?
We're living in the most exciting era. Everything is moving so fast. With the arrival of new technology, it would make room for the new. It would create more opportunities for those with an open mindset. We can find new ways to redefine our current business models, to create more business models, to create new companies, create new businesses going forward. With the US government printing out crazy billions and trillions of dollars, we would see an unprecedented growth in the near future if we can spot this transformational shift. I would like to share with this one quote. even a pig can fly if this pig is in the right in a very strong wind, right? In the right direction. So it's better to do things that are on the sunrise space than doing things against the direction of the world. It's not good to do things on the to carry out on doing things on the sunset industry. We are living in an open world where there are opportunities everywhere. The arrival of new technologies would even create more or create new industries in the future. It's better to start something new, be on the sunrise, push the world forward with new technology. There are a lot of exciting things we can do in the near future. I'm very optimistic.
Okay, so let's grab the opportunity and go to the right direction, right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, and this is Kuntap Jirayut Srupsrisopa. Kuntap, we really wish you even more success to be unicorn soon. And thanks a lot for sharing blockchain and fintech knowledge once again today in our OPEN-TEC community.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me today.
ค่ะ สวัสดีค่ะคุณท็อป
สวัสดีครับ
Thanks all the audience for being with us. And this is Open Talk program under OPEN-TEC Technology Sharing Platform powered by TCC Technology Group. If you like us, please don't forget to click like and subscribe to TCC Technology YouTube channel. See you in our next Open Talk. สวัสดีค่ะ